Okay, now I feel a lot better. The stream is in excellent condition. And to respond to whoever maybe tweeted me the message, did you try turning it off and back on again? That's exactly what I did to get this YouTube stream working all over again. So thanks for sticking with it, everybody. Honestly, thanks for sticking with it on this Friday night. I didn't want to be that guy who only came on and did videos after Sharks wins. I think it's important to learn from the losses too, and to have these conversations, good and bad, because realistically, that's all the Sharks have had in the last basically month, right? Game 7 of round 1 was April 23rd. It's now May 17th. So we're about a couple days shy of that month since the end of round 1. And all the Sharks have done with the Avalanche was alternated win-loss, win-loss. And the same thing with St. Louis through 4 games in this Western Conference final. Started as a best of 7, turned into a best of 5. And now, again, it's a best of 3 where the Sharks do have home ice advantage. 2 of the next 3, if we get to a Game 7, will be at SAP Center. Let's have a moment of silence, shall we? You know what for. 2 or fewer. It was 39-0 entering this game. It's now 39-1. Yeah. I didn't want to say it was perfect all season. I mean, it was, and I didn't want to give anybody the idea that it was impenetrable. Is that even the right word? I've heard that used before. I just wanted to use it. It tells an accurate story of what made the Sharks successful this season. Clearly. You allow 2 or fewer, you're generally going to win most times. The fact that it was perfect 20-0 and then 25-0 and 30-0. Sorry, 0 for Curtis. He doesn't like that I say oh. But when it got to, 36, 7, 8, and 39 and 0, that's a heck of a record. And it tells a heck of a story. I saw somebody tweet, and I forget who it was, say that the last Sharks loss, allowing 2 or fewer, was actually more than a year ago. It was in March of 2018, so about 14 months ago. But again, we know this season they were flawless when allowing 2 or fewer until tonight. And let me just switch gears here. I want to touch on a lot of things, and I want to try and get to as many as soon as I can in this video. Can we just dump the Sharks are lucky narrative now? Or at least in this series, right? If you're from St. Louis, let's be honest, you have not been watching San Jose this entire second season. You don't know the stories of goals that were taken away from them or phantom calls or, the Sharks calls, their breaks had been happening later in games. That's why they've been noticed, because they'll take a break earlier in the game. I don't mean take a break like a rest. A break will go the other way early in a game, and then they'll get a break later in the game. They capitalize on it. They win. Recency bias is the great term that Scott Hannon brought on our TV show tonight. Recency bias. It's the last thing you remember about a game. If the last call went your way, of course that's the only thing you're going to focus on. You forget about the stuff that wasn't called earlier. And I'm not going to make this entire video about officiating, but the Sharks tonight lost 2-1. The Sharks put all 3 pucks in the back of the net, including the 2 against Martin Jones. Barbashev's goal 35 seconds in, which, by the way, so unfortunate timing. That stung, especially because it last touched Nyquist. And then what I thought was the Maroon goal turned out to be a Tyler Bozak goal that clearly went off Justin Braun's skate as he was trying to get back and help out Vlasic and Jones out front. That's on the power play. So all the Blues scoring in the first 20 minutes. Do you classify tonight's game as a bad game for San Jose? I don't know. I believe they fought through a lot in this one. 2 posts by Brent Burns alone. The 2 goals that they scored on themselves by accident, but they scored on themselves. A lot of missed calls. A lot of calls that shouldn't have gone, like against Timo Meier or Vlasic. When Braden Shen got 2 minutes for roughing, how the heck? What did Vlasic get 2 minutes for slashing? For slashing Bennington? What? I must have missed something there. How about Tarasenko taking a shot at Vlasic before Vlasic drew the roughing penalty by Braden Shen? Tarasenko could have also had 2 minutes there. It's yeah. How about when Brendan Dillon high-sticked, or high-stuck, there's no great way to say that, high-stuck Patrick Maroon. Now, he did get him on the shoulder, but Maroon made it seem like he got hit in the mouth. Maybe embellishment there. Look, I'm not going to say that. Here's the difference. I'm not going to say the Sharks lost tonight's game because of officiating. No. It didn't help them. I don't think it was a great officiated game. Sharks didn't get the bounces. They didn't get the luck. So if they got game 3 because of luck, which I'm also not going to say, but if you're going to sit here and say, game 3, Sharks lucked out. They got all the breaks. Okay. So what happened in game 4? They got none of them. I know a lot of players, Tomas Hertl included, and the head coach, Pete DeBoer, they kind of bristle at the thought that they have been getting lucky in this postseason. They've been catching breaks. Any championship team that is not far and away better than all the rest, right? So let's exclude the Golden State Warriors from this conversation because that's a different animal, that's a different beast. Any team that's a competitive team with the rest and goes on to win it all, yes, they're good, but yes, they catch some breaks. And it's not to say that there's some bias for San Jose. If that's honestly your opinion, get out of here. And there's also, I don't think there's a bias towards St. Louis or for Boston. I mean, I question a lot of things, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you that the league wants something more than another and they're fighting to get through officiating. No. But again, tonight's game, I didn't see the Sharks get anything. They didn't have anything go their way. They had a rough first period. I think by the end of it, they kind of turned it around. I think overall, if they put forth the same effort here on Friday night, if they repeat that on Sunday, I have a feeling they'd win that game 3-1. Just saying. I don't think it was a lack of effort in this one. Clearly, they weren't perfect through 60. And it's been a while since you've seen a full 60-minute effort from San Jose. But again, these are the playoffs. It's hard to do that at this time of year. I also want to point out the Sharks, in terms of the shots they took in this game, there was a massive amount of missed shots, blocked shots and missed shots. So San Jose had 30 on net. They put 30 on Binnington. One scored. But the Sharks also had another 21 attempts blocked, and they flat out missed the net 22 other times. That's a lot. Scott Hannon on our postgame coverage talking about, sometimes though the shots that are counted as missed are ones that are sent wide by D-men on purpose because they see a forward out front who can maybe redirect it and their shooting lane got closed off. So I understand that. But to put it in context, the Blues had 22 shots on goal. They only had 8 shots blocked. So the Sharks only blocked 8 shots total. And they only had 5 shots miss the net. So missed shots in this game, 22-5. 22 for San Jose. St. Louis also won the face-off battle, 54% to 46%. Marginal, but slightly one-sided. So another factor too. Well, let me not say a factor in the game. Something else to think about in tonight's contest. Erik Karlsson did not play a big chunk of the third period, specifically late. NBC noticed on the broadcast that his last shift was with 9:24 remaining in the third. And we didn't see him out there again until the final couple minutes when San Jose pulled Martin Jones, and Karlsson was one of the 6 skaters out there with the extra attacker. And he didn't look to be limited in any regard, at least visibly. But it was interesting that he didn't play for a handful of minutes, and they cut to him on the bench a few times, definitely communicating with the coaching staff whether he was ready to go back in, under what circumstances, or what they would do. And it was just interesting that he missed a shift or two, a regular shift or two, before coming back in the last couple minutes. Certainly him coming back is a very good sign. If he was injured, I don't think they risk his health. I also don't think they risk an unhealthy player making a critical mistake with an empty net at that point in the game when you're down by 1 trying to tie it. I don't think Pete DeBoer does that. I don't think he takes that gamble. Yeah, I know they've said that an injured Erik Karlsson is better than a lot of other players in the league. I just don't think that's the case right there. I mean, I don't think they take an unnecessary risk putting him out there if the injury was going to hinder him. So I suppose good news that he came back, but still a question mark for me. 65, is it something else? Did he retweak the groin? Is it cramping? Is it as simple as that? Pete DeBoer, obviously, after the game, didn't want to get into details. Let's go back to a bigger factor of the game, power plays. Once again, just kind of dormant on both sides. And the Sharks did get one tonight. They were 1 for 4, but the Blues were 0 for 5. Now, I'm not sitting here suggesting that the Sharks take a bunch of penalties or play a totally different way because they think that St. Louis can't capitalize on the power play. I think you're foolish if you give them those opportunities. But I do have to say, if one team could get their power play act together and gain a bunch of momentum or score goals, my goodness, actually capitalize on the power play, I think that would be a deciding factor in the 3 games remaining of this series if somebody's power play got hot. But that hasn't happened. And I also want to say, looking at this series, I think this is one of the most important points that I'll make here for San Jose. Looking at this series, a 6-3 win, a 4-2 loss, that 5-4 win the other night in overtime, and tonight a 2-1 loss. We've seen enough to know that the Sharks can win this series. Okay, now why am I saying it like that? There have been other times before where at about 4 games in, we have a really good read on the series. We know what the matchup's all about. We know what these two teams are all about. You know, we have a pretty good sense of where we've been and where this thing is going because we're more than halfway through, even if it went 7-4, more than the halfway point. I don't feel like this is a series where the Sharks are overmatched, outmatched, outnumbered, out anything. I think the Sharks can win this series. I'm not going to sit here and guarantee it to you. I mean, yeah, they have home ice, and yeah, they didn't have their best games in 2 or 4. Realistically, they didn't even have a really bad period in game 3. The second period, getting outscored 4-1, it cost them, right? It put them in a hole, and they had to dig back and find that all over again. But I'm just saying, it's not like watching the Stanley Cup final of 2016. Through 4 games in that series, I wasn't going to count the Sharks out, but it was clear to see the Pittsburgh Penguins had their game, had some advantages, knew how to exploit the Sharks. I'm not feeling that in this matchup. I don't think the Sharks have played their best, like I said, in this series, and maybe St. Louis hasn't either. You know, these are 2 really good teams left. They have a lot to play for. Both franchises are still looking for their first Stanley Cup. The Blues have been doing this, 20 some odd years, even more than the Sharks. And check this out. St. Louis, as a franchise, they've been to the Stanley Cup final 3 times, late 60s. In all 3 of their Stanley Cup final appearances, which have been, which was decades ago, almost 50 years ago, they got swept in every Stanley Cup final. They've never won a Stanley Cup final game. At least the Sharks have. They've been there. They've done that. So you can understand a bit of the desperation on the St. Louis side. Not that any of those players were even alive back then, but the fan base and the understanding that, they want it just as bad as San Jose. Now, I just want to close out this point because I don't want anybody to read into this the wrong way, and I'm trying to make it super clear. I'm not guaranteeing anything. I'm just saying that there's no obvious hurdle for the Sharks in this series that they can't get past, that I don't think they're capable of getting past. I think they can do this. Whether they do or not, obviously remains to be seen. I also want to say that all those times in the regular season where we talked about home ice advantage, I mean, it's pretty crazy that 3 times in a row, this series might go 7. In fact, on that note, let me pull up the tweet I had earlier here. I was trying to gauge Scott Hannon and Curtis Brown in our postgame show, gauge their read. Do they think it's going 7? I think both kind of feel that way. It's just that close. Almost 1,500 votes right now on my Twitter account, Twitter page. Almost 1,500 votes. 75% say we are headed to another Game 7. If you're watching right now in the comments section, go ahead and put your thought. Is this series going to 7? I mean, if it ends in 6, one team is taking the next 2 games. I think the Sharks are capable of that. I think the Sharks, if they started tonight's game from scratch, put out the same effort, I think they'd probably win. Probably. Not guaranteeing it. They didn't have, like I said, they didn't have a great game, start to finish. They didn't catch any breaks. They didn't catch any bounces. They got nothing working their way tonight. And I saw a comment there saying home ice advantage runs out after this round. Yes, that's absolutely true. And on that note, let me say something about the Boston Bruins. Did we find out that the Stanley Cup final is scheduled to start on May 27th, Monday, May 27th? That's 10 days from right now. It's going to be 11 days between games for the Boston Bruins, whoever they face, the Blues or hopefully the Sharks. I'm here to tell you that that long a time off is too long. Optimally, the Bruins, they would rather have, St. Louis facing elimination right now. San Jose on Sunday wins it, and they start the Cup final, Thursday or Friday of next week. Instead, 11 days off for Boston. Now, I'm telling you, that's going to affect them. It's not going to affect them the entire Stanley Cup final. It might affect them, though, the first period of game one of the final. Might affect them for the entire game one of the Stanley Cup final or the first two games, which, by the way, are in Boston. No matter who the opponent is, San Jose or St. Louis, those first two games are definitely in Boston. But let's not get too far ahead of ourselves here. I just thought it was important and relevant to mention that because the NHL just came out with that schedule tonight, and we found out last night, since last time I came on here on YouTube, that Boston would, in fact, be representing the East in the final. So, again, I'm looking at this series, and I don't see a main reason why the Sharks can't come out on the right side. Was definitely good to see the Sharks get one power play goal tonight. You know what's crazy is there was the sequence there, 4-on-4, where they looked more dangerous than they sometimes do 5-on-4. And I know I already said it, that the power play, if San Jose could get it going, could be a total difference maker in this series. But I think they only have 4 power play goals since the beginning of round 2. And we've seen, 11 games since then? So 4 power play goals in 11 games. It's not outstanding. St. Louis was held to just 4 shots on goal tonight in the third period. I thought that was a statement by San Jose. I thought that was, the game by Martin Jones, again, what are you going to say? The skaters did not help Martin Jones. This loss is not tied to him, should not even be necessarily associated with him. In baseball, there's an earned run average. So the pitcher gets all the runs counted against him minus errors or defensive miscues. Tonight's game, you put 2 pucks past your own goalie on accident, but if that's how they're scored, like Martin Jones basically pitched a shutout minus that. I know you can't go back and do the coulda, woulda, shoulda thing, but the Blues got their 2 goals that way. The Sharks only gave Jones 1 goal, or baseball, 1 run of support. That's not enough. It's just not enough. So there you have it. The Blues and Sharks, so near identical, right? San Jose now in these playoffs, 10 wins, 8 losses. St. Louis, 10 wins, 7 losses. And we have 3 games. It's a short series now. 3 games to figure everything out. I'm not here to say that you pretend like the first 4 games didn't happen. I know that's a common comment that, yeah, we'll just throw it all out. Throw the first 4 games out because now it's a best of 3. Well, yeah, not really. I think it's more important to look at the trends you've recognized from this series, what happens next, what applies for San Jose in their next time out. Again, I think Jones is playing well. I hope Karlsson's okay. Also want to say, too, the minutes for Joakim Ryan tonight, I think he only got in about 8 minutes. And I recognize that, Karlsson and Burns, and I know Vlasic and Braun and obviously Dylan, basically the other 5D, those guys are accustomed to playing heavy minutes. But I wonder just how that's going to work moving forward. And again, it was a close game, right? In fact, the Sharks were pushing for a majority of the night, for 40-plus minutes, pushing to try and get on the scoreboard or get back into the game. So I don't know if that's part of it. You talk about shortening your bench. I mean, going from 6D down to basically 5D with the exception of those 8 minutes. I'll be interested to see how it works out, personnel-wise on the blue line for San Jose. So I think that's it. I think that's where I'm going to wrap it up. 39-1. 2 or fewer. I'm not here to say it's over. I'm here to tell you that, like I've always been saying, it's a good recipe for success. Should we bring in some music here to fade us out? It's been a good recipe for success. You want to know how to get back on a winning track? Allow 2 or fewer on Sunday. I bet you it works. I put money on it. I'm not a betting man, but I put money on it. This music is perfect for this. Oh, of course it ends. Well, we'll see what song comes on next, but I also want to say something else to think about for Sunday is the 12 noon puck drop. Super important to get a good start for San Jose in this game. For both sides, really. But it's the national broadcast, and it's going to have players totally out of their routines and rhythms. I don't really know what to expect in the first, 5-10 minutes, but I can tell you there's going to be some sloppiness, generally speaking. But if you're the Sharks and you can capitalize early, clearly that's going to go a long way. No morning skate, the pregame meal, the pregame nap, all that stuff thrown off. Sharks, by the way, will be traveling back to San Jose at some point tomorrow. Just so you know. All right. Tell you what I'll do here. Let me take a quick scan through the comments. I'm not going to podcast this thing because it'll happen over the weekend. If I see any good comments here, let me try and respond to some of those. Talking about Karlsson. How about this one? The criticism of San Jose. I had to let it drop there. The criticism of San Jose to not get back-to-back wins. Now, they have got back-to-back wins since round 1, right? They won Game 7 against the Avs and Game 1 against St. Louis, but this stuff's not easy. Do I wish these playoffs were more comfortable? Do I wish there was some kind of cushion? Of course. But this has been a tough playoffs for San Jose. They might go 7 games, all 3 of the first rounds. I can only think of one more thing difficult that I've witnessed in recent history. The 2014 LA Kings. They were the 8th seed, so they didn't have home ice at all in round 1, 2, or 3. But they went to Game 7 in all of them. They won on the road Game 7 in all of them. And then they went on to beat the Rangers in the Stanley Cup. 5 games in total, 4-1 Los Angeles. So I'm just saying, for those asking, has this been done before? A team going to 7 every round just to get to the Cup final? Yes, it has. And even against greater odds with those Kings being the road team and not having home ice. But I guess this is part of it. I guess this is the crazy, insane part. Are you supposed to appreciate this? Are you supposed to appreciate this struggle? Maybe that's how I'm going to end this here. Tonight's a struggle. Yeah, would this be a much different video if the Sharks were up 3-1 right now in a series? Absolutely. But they're back to 2-2. Here we go again. Nothing has come easy for the Sharks in these playoffs, minus their captain. Joe Thornton had a suspension. Las Vegas was scoring goals like crazy. Everybody's labeled them as an asterisk and catching all these lucky bounces, when in reality, that's something every team has. It's just Sharks were more on bigger stages, and they were more noticeable at the end of games. Recency bias. That was a good one by Scott Hannon tonight. The struggle is real. And you know what? I don't want to talk yet about storylines of a Stanley Cup final yet. We're not there yet. Let's embrace this struggle, I guess. I'm not ready to go there yet. So, all right. Want to thank all of you who have stuck around and watched this. Subscribe to the channel if you could. Thumbs up down below if you liked this. I'm not going to force you to. Tell a friend, maybe. I'm really trying to get this channel going even more. Subscriptions are up, views are up, all that stuff. It's great. But I think there's always room for improvement, and I always want bigger and better. And in the end, more of a quality, regular product for you to enjoy. So thanks for checking me out here on a Friday night. Until next time, I'm Brody Brazil. And yes, that is my real name.
Taking time, baby, playing it through. I was calling out your name, put my eyes on the wall. You were running like a ghost from me. You were running from it all. You got me waiting, I'm on fire. You got me waiting, my desire.
This is the jam right here.